stress is a silent killer. Your body does speak.
Yeah.
Do not ignore it.
It is the feeling of being overwhelmed, the inability to cope.
What is it that we can do either to identify the stress or to just deal with the stress?
Just eating well and exercising. Again, that if that's a thing that you do, it does help with stress as well.
Hello everyone, it's good to be back. It's a beautiful day. Today it feels like summer. Oh, it feels great. It's an honor to be back again. I am not alone as usual. I've got ladies that will introduce themselves to you. Ladies, welcome.
Hi everyone, I'm Tsulu and I'm back again to have relevant conversations about 2021, I guess.
Hi everyone, I'm Andile, back again to talk about all things wellness.
Yeah. It's indeed an interesting moment and yet a scary one at the same time. Today we are going to be speaking about the role of stress and how to identify stress so that you are able to live beyond it and be above it as well. I was looking at some statistics and I got a shock to realize that many illnesses that eventually become physiological, mental, and emotional, there is a salient mama, and her name is called stress. And it is doing havoc more so during this time. So we are going to be speaking about that. I personally have my own experiences where I thought, and I knew that for some strange reason I could never have stress. Until one day I sat in front of a doctor and the doctor said to me, "There is absolutely nothing wrong with you. What do you do for a living?" And I look at this man and I'm thinking, is there nothing else? Where is your stethoscope? I need you to check me because I'm just not well. And the guy looks at me and says to me, "You are just under a lot of stress." And it was like a shock because I have always been spiritual and I'm thinking, if I'm spiritual, there is nothing that can stress me. But there was mama stress, and it was just amazing that it took somebody who doesn't know me to actually say to me, what you are going through, what you are thinking is all of it. It's actually none of it, but it is stress, and this is how it is showing itself in your body. So I know of you at home that you may be thinking that why this topic, but this topic is very real. It is so real, it is so real, it is so real. Ladies, it is real.
Yeah. No, it really is. I think for me, it's in the fact that stress actually doesn't look, it manifests itself differently to different people.
Yeah.
And sometimes it won't typically look like, I'm just tired or I'm sick. I think with Mom's case, it was a matter of you feeling sick when you really weren't sick in terms of your actual body.
Yeah.
But stress can play itself out as insomnia, just not being able to sleep well. I read up on the fact that it can play itself out as increased anxiety as well, irritability, and you'd live with someone and think, oh my gosh, they're just being moody, they're snapping, and that all has to do with actually how stressed they are. So for me, I think the major takeaway from this whole trying to read up about stress and how it manifests itself is the fact that it plays itself out differently with different people. Mom might get sick or tired. I might just get like snappy, and I'm not even like a moody person. But it can play out itself out as that, or just not sleeping well. I know Mom also has a problem with just not sleeping well as well. So yeah, I think for me that is the scariest thing, and it is very important that when you notice these things about yourself, especially if you're not a person who stresses easily, it's so important to just sit down with yourself and chill and be like, okay, I'm acting out of character. This is not me. Let me actually think about what's wrong. Let me kind of, that for me has been something that I need to do with myself, especially because I'm in the process of writing my master's. So all these things I can find myself stressed when I'm not really, it wouldn't really be obvious to me that I'm actually a bit stressed out, but I'd have to actually sit with myself and be like, okay, shucks, I'm acting out of character. What's wrong with me? And it's very important to be patient with yourself. I think for me, that's what I've taken away from this whole exercise.
I think for me, when I read about stress, it is the feeling of being overwhelmed, the inability to cope, and I realized why it is so difficult for people to say I'm stressed, because no one wants to say I'm unable to cope.
I can't,
And yet this inability to cope, your mind will tell you, no, I'm okay, but your body will start to show it. And that is when I know it with headaches, then you have just constant headaches. Then as Tulu says, you're snapping, or you just lose interest in things you used to like. You're just like,
unmotivated.
I'm not so motivated. And the worst thing is, if you don't pick it up, some people go to the extent of leaving a job because it doesn't work for me anymore. And what you're not realizing is that you are stressed. You need to take a step back and deal with it. And that is, and I've seen it. I mean, I've seen it with me. I snap a lot, and I'm just like, whatever. I'm annoyed. But then when I take a step back to say, okay, so what's wrong? Then I realize I'm stressed. And then I must just try and remove certain things that are just clogging my mind and try to step away from it. I think what I'm trying to get at is the importance of realizing that being overwhelmed is not an indication of failure.
Yes.
If I can tell my mind and tell myself that it's not an indication of failure, it is to say it is more than the capacity you have to handle. Shift things around and fix it. You can still go back to those things. And I think for me, that's that's what I've said to myself. To be able to cope with it.
Thank you for the comments. I think for me it's a very tricky subject. It's a tricky subject because nowhere would I have, for an example, I am by nature a person who doesn't care if I have failed, because I know that everyone tries and they fail, But I think what becomes tricky about the subject matter, is that it has a tendency of taking longer to show what it truly is. It takes longer to show. Before somebody can say, I'm going through a burnout, or I'm just down and out, it's not an overnight thing. And I think what becomes fearful for me, it is the progression, the length. I mean, when I went to see this doctor, I had this thing in 2017 December. It would affect one side of my body, to the point that I thought, I wonder who on earth is playing black magic, almost Abantu abamnyama, we play black magic. Until it took 2021 for me to walk into somebody and say, I am not understanding what's wrong with my throat. I know for a fact that I'm not positive. I've done the test. I'm not. But my throat was sore. My neck was sore. My nerves in the head were sore. And when I get to this specialist, he says to me, he holds me by my neck and he says, and then I obviously see that he's a neck specialist and an ENT. And he says to me, I'm going to put a stethoscope inside of you. I'm going to check you. I am convinced. Guys, I was convinced that there would be sores on my throat. And he says to me, your throat has not even the tiniest of ulcer. Then he says, your ear are as clean. All that is happening here, ma'am, is stress. Look at the time. 2017, 18, 19, 20. And all along, I'm walking with this thing. I am not aware that I am stressed. I don't think I am stressed because there is nothing that has changed so drastically in my life that I may be saying, this I can't handle, or I'm stressed about this. No, I just generally am highly capable to deal with emotional issues. This guy looked at me and said, I'm just going to give you myogel. I thought to myself, myogel for the whole pain for all these years. And I think it took a phone call from my son who said to me, Ma, what you are explaining right now, it is stress. And for some strange reason, it was only that time that I quickly took a phone and I thought, okay, let me really read. As I was reading, I thought to myself, oh my God, this is stress, because I am beginning to see the things that are being mentioned. All of a sudden, I now am very fond of tablets that will make me relax. You know, all of a sudden, I'm leaning towards things that will just calm me a bit. And to cut a long story short, I began to say, okay, how can I attend to this stress with home remedies? And there were bath salts. I went straight into the bath. I massaged my head and I was told, sniff any lavender. I sniffed lavender. I had my kids massaging me. Guys, you won't believe this. From that time, the 3.5 years torture literally just disappeared. But this pain was so bad. And I say to myself, at some particular point, by the way, if this thing keeps on impacting one side, I mean, I've seen people that have been hit by a stroke before. And I'm thinking, heaven, could it be? So if you are not careful, if you do not check your body, if you do not really just engage and speak to people, I honestly can attest that stress is a silent killer. Because you can treat all else and not the stress, and the stress becomes the one thing that sends you to the grave. So all that I think we're saying today is, I think it is imperative. We are in a state that we're in the world. We are knowing the state in the country. We're on level 4. We are seeing symptoms even when they are not there. How much of those symptoms are genuinely there? How much of them are add on by the fact that we are now just stressed? Just the fact that I could be coughing can be stressful enough to say, oh my God, now I have COVID. Yeah. So all that I think we're saying today, it is to say, your body does speak. Yeah. Do not ignore it, because when you ignore it, you may find yourself developing all sorts, thinking that is the cause, and yet your body is just going through mama stress. Let's attend to mama stress before it is too late. We're coming back. We're coming back after the break. Welcome back. It's us on a very nice topic, a very scary topic. Mama stress. When we left earlier, Tsulu had a question that she wanted to ask. Yes. By all means, please.
So earlier, when we began, you mentioned something about you been having this stress or this pain in your body for such a long time. You thought someone was doing black magic on you. Yeah. You thought someone had your voodoo doll. And then again, you mentioned that even when you got to the doctor, now finally attending to the pain after so many years, the doctor then tells you there's nothing there to stress, and you were thinking, shucks, I'm a past time spiritual. What do you mean I'm stressed? So my question for you is, how do you balance your faith and your spirituality with the reality that you are stressed? Because I think a lot of older women, especially black women, have a thing where they are sick or they fall ill, and it's never a thing of maybe I'm stressed. It never gets there. Their thought processes never take them to the fact that I might just be stressed out. It's always hi konong sebenza, or even when it's time now for a checkup and they've been sick with a certain illness, it's always a thing of why should I go to a doctor? Jesus and the Holy Spirit, they're my comforter, he's my healer. Yes. By his stripes I'm healed. I get it, but like and you get stressed out. So how do you balance this thing that a lot of our mothers, a lot of our grandmothers will find themselves in, a thing of being strong and having faith, when really it's just time for you to address the stress that you're feeling. How do you balance that?
Yeah. I think my response would start by saying that the term stress has not been very common in the black market, in the black lives community. Yeah, sorry. And because of that, we have always wanted to explain what we feel based on our cultural beliefs. So if I am a black woman and I'm believing that they can throw juju at me, I will be looking left, right, and center on who the potential thrower is, as opposed to saying what truly could be going on in me. Yeah. So I think that's the first thing. I think what then compounds the inability to balance is now the whole issue again of Christianity, because we love God, we believe in Jesus, and He is the healer, but we also do not do a full job. We also do not do a full analysis. When you go to the Bible and you look at how Jesus dealt with issues of sickness and disease, he always made reference to go show yourself to the priest. Go show forth that you are healed. So Jesus never nullified sickness nor disease, but He disempowered sickness and disease. So what we then do, Tina, instead of understanding how Jesus treated diseases, He would say, I've healed you, go show yourself to the priest, or go show yourself to the doctor that you are healed. But we don't do that. And then the question is, where are we finding this gospel that says, sit at home with your mama stress, Don't dig as to what could be wrong, because hallelujah, he is just going to heal you. He doesn't heal when you have not acknowledged what is wrong with you. So what the mistake that we do is, number one, we've got weird belief systems that are not fully explored. Number two, it is taboo amongst black people a lot to say, I'm under stress, I'm under stress. More so when you are so-called Holy Ghost filled and all spiritual like Mama here, where you kept on saying, in the name, I don't know how many times I had to put oil on this head and say, whomsoever it is, let it go back to the sender, until I said, I am tired. I am tired. By the way, in the 4 years, I went through a brain scan to check, because this thing was very painful. I still do believe that there was juju somewhere. I still believe that there was juju somewhere. I went through a thingy, a scan. They put this purple thing. In that thing, the scan came out and said, "Sindisiwe uclean." But the pain never disappeared. So what I'm really saying is, in as much as I am spiritual, I never in all these years did nothing about the pain. I went to a couple of physicians, and all they could tell me was, I was just thinking that your muscles are strained. But it took an ENT specialist to say to me, you are going under stress. So if you are listening, please do yourself a favor. Do attend to your body. When you are feeling something that's out of the norm, when all of a sudden you were sleeping naturally, and all of a sudden you are loving the sedative effect of any cough mixture, there is a problem. So do yourselves a favor. Look out for the signs and take the necessary precaution, which I'm sure that you ladies are going to comment on them, because while we are saying that this thing is a silent killer, guys, it is amazing at how much available help is that can actually deal with stress.
True.
Andile?
Yeah, I think I like the point you've just raised, Tulu, because having been around church and church people, there is this thing that says, I'm not a pastor, but how can you be sick? Then I'll call.
Yes.
That thing is so hurtful.
Yeah.
Because all it does is it says, no, when I'll call, just go and deal no kola wako. And until this thing is corrected, the children of God are going to suffer inside the church, because the church itself is not accepting the fact that people can be stressed. If the church, the place where you came looking for help, and you're thinking, how much more kola must I be? I'm and I think I do need you to give that feedback, that correction to people who've been in the position that I've been in. And if you can, as a message to the children of God who love God but have been labeled as abakolwa because they're experiencing a level of stress and it's impacted their bodies. And maybe if you can just give that correction.
It's an interesting one, Andile, because you are saying what you are saying. Imagine when what you are saying is on the other side. So now I'm a pastor, and then Andile says, Mommy, I am not well. There is a window where my being very brutally honest with Andile can be misread by Andile. For an example, I can say, go take Disprin to deal with your head. And Andile at turn around and say, hey, I wonder what type of a pastor. I mean, she didn't even lay hands on me. She didn't even speak a word, So it is a reality. It is a reality, and I think I'm going to go back to the point that I said earlier, that we need to understand the things of God in perspective. The Word of God says, at the mention of the name of Jesus, every knee bows. Now, sickness has a name. Every sickness has a name. So if we cannot confront these sicknesses and say, you are a headache, whatever the condition is, if we cannot name it, the question is, what is it that we take to God? So I think there is some level of a bit of ignorance from us as the children of God, and hence we find ourselves sibulawe njizinto that are not meant to be killing us, because we are already, number one, possibly we've judged ourselves that askholwa enough. Number two, you must always be giving a testimony yokuthi I am healed, even when we have not even done one single thing to attend to the healing. But you must stand there and say, I'm healed, so that you are looking spiritual and you are looking relevant. We are on Mother Earth. Jesus walked on Mother Earth. He commanded demons. They were not in the air. They were demons. They were real. He commanded sickness and disease. It was real. It was pain. It was leprosy. It was all of it. He dealt with it all, but he never hid it. If you are a child of God, you are human. You are going through stuff. Not a single person can argue that they've never gone through stuff. We go through stuff. But I think it is important that we take a step back and say, are we taking care of the temple? Because the temple needs to be taken care of. We do need to take care of the temple. How do we do it? Some experts say, relax in a bath. I have been relaxing. I buy bath salts and I sit there and I put my hands here and I am as warm can be, and I try to feel every part of my body. I think that is what is also unfair about this matter, that I think it has stolen many people. It has confused people. One of the things that I would like you guys to talk about is the fact that when stress is not attended to, it multiplies to different sicknesses. Until one of those sicknesses can take a life, and yet there are so many things that can be done, that literally can be done, which I think if you can talk about, it would really help. What is it that we can do either to identify the stress or to just deal with the stress?
I think for me, what I've learned is that a lot of the stress becomes, it's like other illnesses that become real come from the stress. It's like it's a domino effect. You could be stressed out, and then just because you're stressed out, you'll stress eat. I know a lot of stress eaters around me, and the stress eating then turns out into this and this and this. One of the experiences I have at the top of my head was there was a particular time where my dad was stressed out, and what he'd do was he wasn't eating as well as he should. The stress then and the not eating well then turned into like acidity in the stomach, which then turned into ulcers, which were real now. So all of these things, now the realness of an ulcer, which they did pick up on, just had to do with the not eating well, which actually came from the stress. As soon as he addressed all of that and started eating better again and started exercising, all these ulcers disappeared. So I think for me, it's like what you were saying about just being in tune with your body and listening to your body. One of the best ways that you can handle, that I think I've witnessed is just eating well and exercising. Again, that if that's a thing that you do, it does help with stress as well. I think I've said it to you in passing as well, that I really like winding down from my day. So if you had intended to give me extra work at 6 p.m., understand that you won't get it at like 7 p.m. or even 8 p.m. we'll get it tomorrow morning. Because from like 6 p.m., especially on Sundays, I'm winding down. There's no information that I am letting come into my mind and stress me out. I am literally just winding down. And there are many ways to wind down. Like you take Epsom salt baths every night now. I do that as well. Because if you are trying to add so much information at a time at which you are supposed to actually be preparing your body to sleep, that's when you're staying up, that's when you're having the insomnia, that's when you're getting snappy the next morning. So I think for me there's certain little rituals that I do to help wind down, and I think they're very important, because if you do ignore your body and ignore those little things that you do for yourself, it can actually aggravate the stress. I think I'd said to Andile years ago, Andile has this habit of like, she'll work with 2 laptops and she'll be on the phone and she'll be like typing, and I'm like, you need to slow down. You need to slow down. And she's like, Sullivan, there is no slowing down. And I'm like, you need to slow down. And you'd find on Sunday, she's the first person ready to, cover us to church, and I'd sit and be like, nah, this is not okay. She's stressed out, And I think after a conversation that we had some years back where I'm like, yo, Andile, like, again, it's referencing this whole spirituality thing. I'm like, Andile, you know the Bible, hey? Like, you really, like, you know it better. Like, you really know it. But I think with God and this whole spirituality thing, and that he makes a person 3-dimensional on purpose. Yes. You have your spirit, which we feed, obviously, every Sunday. Yeah. Then you have the physical, which you're supposed to take care of. And then you have the emotional, again, which you're supposed to take care of. Yeah. He's not going to do this other stuff, that you're supposed to be doing. So that was another thing for me when we used to have those kinds of conversations, and she was like, that actually makes a lot of sense. We're made 3-dimensional. We feed this part of ourselves via the Bible and counseling and church and worship and all these things. But then we're also physical beings that need to take care of this temple. And once we don't, we get stressed out. We're also emotional beings, and we have to acknowledge that, hey, man, that hurt when you did that to me, or I'm not emotionally okay, or and we need to sit with those emotions and feel them so that they pass. Yes. Because again, once you sit with things, they become stresses as well. So I think for me, it's just being very conscious and being very aware and being very in tune with your own body.
Yeah. I don't know. Just before we close, I'm just very keen if Andile can comment from a corporate perspective, because we are all now literally working from home, and how do we bring the balance that Sulu is talking about? Because ultimately, by the way, when I went to the doctor, it is because I had tons of work that came once like this. And as I walked into the house, I thought, oh my God, when am I going to rest? When am I going to start? And that's when the pain even got worse. And I could relate the pain to the work, So I'm very keen as to what is it that you can tell people who are currently forced to work from home. How can they strike the balance?
So, again, it goes back to the definition, the feeling overwhelmed. Okay, what working from home has done is to break the boundaries between office and home. It has taken away your place, your sacred space of rest. And having taken that away, it takes, so you used to be able to drive to work to separate yourself from the office. And I felt this, and I've always said, my time driving to work is very important to me, because I'm either speaking to God at that time, preparing for the day and saying, Lord, I need help with this. It doesn't happen anymore. Then at the end of the day, I must now run and try to cook and do this. It's all happening here. So I don't have that space. So what's important is to create that space for yourself. What I've done in this year specifically is I switched that laptop on at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
At 4:30 I shut it down. I am not available after 4:30. unless if I'm gallivanting during the day, then I must make up the time, so
time,
that I'm not stealing from my employer.
Yeah.
Because what then happens is, as long as people see that you are available, they think that you have capacity to take their issues.
Everything.
Even
Yes.
if it's at 10 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock in the morning, as soon as they see that green light, you're available to chat to them. So it's important to put back those barriers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if you don't put those barriers, no one else is going to put that barrier
Yeah.
for you. You know, I learned it the hard way, and I just decided I'm the only person who can put these barriers in place.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. I
Yeah.
put the barriers to say, no, this is my home time now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sharp.
Yeah.
I'm taking a walk.
Yeah.
And that has worked for me. I do see the difference. I'm getting a lot of rest time because of doing that. You know, I'm getting, the time I used to drive, I'm walking at the time. You know,
Okay.
it's still the time you need to unwind. Like you say, to wind down your day.
Yeah.
So it is quite important. Yeah. I think the other thing though that because we did bring the issue of faith and spirituality, and I don't want to let it go without me addressing the fact that prayer does work. Prayer, there's a word that says, ask God of wisdom. If you lack wisdom, ask God, and He will give you wisdom. Because that wisdom that He gives you is the wisdom to say, go see a doctor.
Yes.
It is
Yeah.
the wisdom to say, rest. He will give you that wisdom if you ask. Because some people don't believe that they do need to see a doctor. Luckily, you've been very truthful.
Yeah.
I mean, I was prayed for when I battled with hypertension, 2014. It did stop. So I'm not going to nullify the fact that there is healing that does come from being prayed for. It did stop for years. My doctor was in complete shock for years.
I
How
have laid
could it-
hands.
Yes. She was in shock for years. How did it just go? And yet it did go. So I don't want us to nullify the fact that God does heal,
He does.
But where you are not seeing the healing, maybe you are missing the wisdom that He has brought in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, go seek help. Don't go get medication. Go do this. And that is where prayer, I always believe, comes in.
Yeah.
It is God giving you the wisdom to do what ought to be done. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much. I hope you have enjoyed this discussion. I think before we step down, I just want to encourage you. I know that we have been told that we are on level 4 and that we must keep as much to ourselves as possible. But it will not hurt you to have time in a month where you just go to the mall. You're telling you ice cream. Just have a girls' ice cream time. Have a walk. Do that little thing. Do those movies. Watch movies at home where we are not doing anything that's going to require you to be overly concentrating on it. As you do that, I mean, I could miss my soapy, but there are times where I would say, switch TV on for me. I want to watch the Queen, and people thinking, is she really a Christian? Of course I am. I love soapies. I'm in the world, me. I watch. Let's watch the things that will relax us. Let's do the things that will be fun to do, so that as we enjoy ourselves, whatever that might be a burden on our shoulders finds that it just disappears. It has the potential. I'm a living testimony from this side to this side. I'm healed. Yes, stress is gone. I've taken care of stress. There was no juju. There was no juju. It was just stress. You at home, make sure that you take care of that body. There is one thing though as well that I think is also important. Sometimes when a person is in it, they struggle to see that they are in it. So you that are surrounding the person who all of a sudden wants to isolate, now they are grumpy, now they are teary, the wisdom again to say, how can I be of help? Rather than asking, she doesn't know, he doesn't know. Be that person that brings the light in that situation so that the person can come out of where they are. But stress, it should not have the power that it has been having. It can be dealt with. I hope you enjoyed the show. See you next time. Cheers.